Hi guys, welcome back to another episode of Sin and Tonic. Today's story is that of Darren McKie. Grab your brolly, we are going up north. Let's go. Sin and Tonic! You may have noticed my winter attire. I'm in a freaking hoodie. Not a fan in sight. It is the 2nd of August, it's the summer holidays, and it's been the greyest, drizzliest summer I think I've ever known in my life. Fun times. Cheers. Without further ado, let's jump on in. Today we are going to Wilmslow in Cheshire, near Manchester, I believe, and it's a bit of a fancy area, a bit posh. It is home to Darren and Leanne McKie and their 3 children. Darren is a police inspector. He is very respected in his job, in his work, and he is climbing the career ladder. People describe him as dependable, respected, and also a tad emotionless, so his nickname is actually Spock. I am not a Trekkie fan, but I believe Spock is... I've got to Google it now. Oh, well, it sounds like Spock is a bit misunderstood there. He's part human, so he does have emotions, but he suppresses them quite often. Might deny them, but he does feel them. He does have friends. Stuff like that. So, he's not just void of any emotion. So I was wrong, and so are the people that gave this man his nickname. I suppose maybe not, because Spock does come across as emotionless. So we'll let them off. We'll let them have it. Fun facts with save. Moving on. We also have wife Leanne. She is also in the force. She is a police detective. People describe Leanne as kind, generous and caring in nature. So the couple between them are probably on quite a decent wage. However, they have a very fancy lifestyle, more fancy than they can afford. They both have brand new cars. They're very well dressed. They have an expensive home that they renovated and did extensive work on to make it even more fancy. They would enjoy luxury holidays, not your bog standard for these guys, luxury. But underneath all of this was just mountains of debt, very much living beyond their means and with the air of keeping up with the Joneses. So they do live in an affluent area, and it would seem that they were trying to keep up with their peers. Despite the situation and how bad it really was, Darren had said to Leanne, don't worry about it, leave it with me. And he sort of took control of their finances and the big, huge mess that it was. I don't believe I said what year we were in. I apologise, 2017. So in the September of that year, Leanne found or caught a whiff of Darren having got or applied for another loan. And she was like, no. Because the whole point was that they were going to get out of debt and not get more. And she's a detective, mate. He was like, oh, it must be fraud, must be a mistake. Right. So, yeah. So at this point, she must have had a bit of a, strong suspicion that he was trying to get more debt. When I first read the case and I was reading about their situation, it felt almost like a bit adolescent, because all very young, when you're younger and you want the trainers that everyone's got, or when you even into adulthood, into early adulthood, but then you learn your lessons, don't you? You stretch yourself too far to have something because, of how it's going to make you look to other people. And then you get yourself in a spot and you think it's not worth it. It's not worth it. And you learn the lesson. Most people. So when I was reading this, I thought, they're grown adults. Darren was 43. They haven't outgrown that. So I thought at first. And then the more I read about Darren, the more I started to think that perhaps he has quite a few narcissistic traits or even narcissistic personality disorder. The grandiose nature, basically, for him was, well, I deserve this. I am this good. You can't deny it to me. So even though the reality is that he's getting into huge amounts of debt, that they're in trouble. They can't keep that up. They can't sustain it. He was just wanted more because that's what he felt like he deserved. That's how it came across to me anyway. Also, entitlement, which is a huge part of narcissism, as well as lacking real empathy. They do have empathy, but it's motivational, so only to get what they want. There's two other parts of narcissism: grandiose, entitlement, empathy. Actually, it's kind of interesting to look at narcissism because quite often I think that a lot of the times, a lot of the cases that I cover, you can see it in a lot of the perpetrators. I wonder how many would actually be classed as, yeah. I have got some notes about it. So there's 5 main things. Grandiosity, think they're better than people, think they're superior. Entitlement, so there's masses of that with Darren. Motivational empathy, yeah, I mean, I don't know about that in this case, but that is a lot of people that commit crimes are quite manipulative and they can play on people's emotions and stuff, can't they? Impaired self-awareness, I think, yeah, because impaired self-awareness, like, you can't just keep getting, how are you going to pay these loans off, Darren? You see? So I think that is an impaired self-awareness. He's not aware. All he's focusing on is what he wants, the things that he wants, and stonewalling. So, yeah, can't share the truth, things like that. So can't, would be deaf to somebody. And he is with his wife. So she's trying to stop them from getting into any more debt. And he's like, like it doesn't go in. Anyhow, on Thursday, the 28th of September 2017, that morning, the family get up as usual. Leanne takes the children to school and Darren goes into work. He has a meeting scheduled that afternoon with a surveyancer to come and look at their house and what's the word I'm looking for? Like, valuate it. Because I think for the purposes of getting even more debt. And I'm not sure if Leanne actually knows about that appointment or not, or whether he lied about what it was for. I'm not sure. But anyway, so he had that meeting scheduled. In the meantime, Leanne has arrived back at home after dropping the kids off, and at some point in her morning, she answers the door to the postman. She has to sign for the post, and when he's gone, she opens it, and inside is her passport, payslip, things like that, and the approval of a £54,000 loan. What the? So she had questioned Darren about this before, and he was like, no, it's not, not getting any more debt, no. And then this, and it's true, he's applied for this huge loan in her name, and that is fraudulent. That's really bad. So he's forged her signature. He has gone into the system at work to get a payslip off of the police system, and he's taken her passport and sent that off as well. So that's just, that's not on. That's not on. Leanne is obviously really angry about this. Like, that is just, he's gone, not only has he done what he said he wasn't going to do, but he's gone as far as to do it in her, it's fraudulent. And they are both police, detective police inspectors. Like, what the hell? So she sends a couple of angry text messages over to Darren, who is at work. And one of them says, "You're a liar." And the other one is like, WTF. So, yeah, she's angry. So she has questioned him, and now she is angry with him, and she's called him a liar. And Darren comes home early. So everyone thought he was leaving early anyway for the surveyancer. But he is coming, I don't know if that's the right word I'm using, I'm just going to go with it, I think it is. So he gets the text messages from Leanne, his wife, and he is seething inside. He's furious. So he leaves early and he goes home and he walks into their house, and in a matter of moments, he kills Leanne. With one hand, he strangled Leanne and he broke 2 bones in her neck while he was doing so. And the other hand he used to put over her mouth and her nose so that she couldn't make any noise, she couldn't scream, and also it would suffocate her as well. Wife of 13 years. There is something more going on there, because it's not like he just snapped. How can you just snap? He had the whole drive home. He got those text messages. He was angry. But that didn't happen in the moment. When some people say, I just saw red and I was so angry, she said such and such, or he said such and such, and I just snapped. He wasn't with her at the time that he got that furious. He'd had the text messages. He had the whole drive home to calm down, think about it. And he walked into his house and he murdered his wife. That is rage another level. That is cold callousness at a different, like, what? There has to be more to the story, but we will never know because he has never said what happened when he got home that day. There could be a number of things. They were both in the police service. Perhaps she said enough is enough and I'm going to report that you got this loan fraudulently. I mean, that would be a big, especially for somebody with such, superiority. Somebody so respected as well. That was really important to him, how respected he was. Think about that when you're killing your wife. Maybe. Anyway, so maybe he could see everything crumbling down, like if she's going to tell. Or maybe it wasn't even that. Perhaps she just was questioning him, maybe for the first time. Maybe she'd really had enough and he couldn't handle that. Also, for somebody who places so much importance on, and it makes me cross in so many cases, especially, sometimes when men, it's normally always men that kill their whole families because they've got themselves into a financial pit and they're going to lose everything. And when it gets to that point and they see that they're going to lose everything, they kill their entire family and sometimes then themselves normally. But still, it's like, is it worth it? At what point? Go on a couple of fancy holidays, who cares? Nobody cares. That's the point in life. Nobody actually gives a hoot. People might fleetingly think of you and your existence and what you're doing and what car you've got. Perhaps you might turn up somewhere and be like, oh, they're doing all right. And that is it. Nobody cares about you. Everyone cares about themselves. And it's a beautiful thing. You can just do what you want. And there might be times where people give you a bit of, judgment or whatever, but no one cares enough for you to get yourself into so much financial ruin that then you're going to kill your whole family for it. What? Or your wife? What? It just blows my mind because it makes me so angry. Can you tell the vein? It's it just doesn't make any sense at all. And that's the point, because it's not a normal brain, is it? It's not a normal person thinking that. Most people would just be, the most important thing is your family, and they are the complete opposite. I feel like, it's only my gut feeling because I don't know and we don't know because he didn't tell anyone what happened, but my gut feeling is that he could foresee losing everything. His house, his nice car, all of it. Maybe that was what happened. I think there was an element of that. He was losing control, he was losing his wife potentially, but also he was going to lose all of his stuff. So he killed his wife. Good one. I will never understand it. Also, all I could think was, thank God it wasn't the summer holidays, because people like that, they kill their entire family sometimes. So yeah, I was really glad that they were at school. In the area that they lived in, there was quite a lot of door cam footage, CCTV, stuff like that. So people and eyewitnesses, so people were around. At 12:45, Darren was seen driving out of the driveway in Leanne's Mini. He then is seen parking her Mini in a road nearby. They've got a big driveway, a bit odd. Not when you realise that Leanne is in the boot of said Mini. That's where she is. The surveyor is coming at 1:30. So Darren knew that he had to remove, a surveyor is going to look around the whole house as well. Crikey. So he's got to remove Leanne's body from the property. Now, the surveyor is early. He's early to the appointment and he is parked on the road, and he witnesses Darren walking into his house just after 1:00. And then shortly after that, he goes in. So there's no real downtime here for Darren to gather himself. He's just driven Leanne's body to a nearby road, walked in, and then shortly after that, the surveyors come in let's get started. And he's there for about 45 minutes. And he said that in that time, Darren was cool as a cucumber. Darren knows that obviously it's going to be very odd for him to collect his children from school. Perhaps that's not normal for them. So he starts sending Leanne text messages at about 2:40 saying, where are you? A bit worried about you. Your dad's called and says he hasn't heard from you and blah, blah, blah. And he's sending all of these messages to Leanne to make it seem like obviously, where is she? And then he goes to collect his children from school. Again, he remains very calm and composed, emotionless. He is a police officer as well. So they are, they're trained to be very calm under pressure. So he gets home with the kids, dinner, time, all that business, and he puts them to bed. All that time later, so Leanne's been in the boot of her Mini, like, a while now. So he puts them to bed and then he leaves. That makes me sad. I just hate, so he's just left his children in the house, all three of them, and then he goes. He knows that he's got to do something. He has to get rid of Leanne's body. So he goes. What follows, guys, is it's almost like, I can hear rain. It's almost like a Mr. Bean episode, and I'm glad, because not in a funny way, but you know how everything goes wrong. Anything that can go wrong does go wrong, and it's such karma, because we don't really often see that, do we? People do get caught. Some people don't. Do you ever think that there's people out there that have killed and they've never been caught? Oh, that's scary. Anyway, most people do, but I also love cases where karma is, she is on fire, and that is this case. Here we go. First of all, he gets in the Mini and he drives to this place, Paddock Hill Farm, and he knows that there is a deep pond there. His original plan, is to go there and to dump her body there. However, when he arrives there is no water in said pond. It's just a puddle or something like that. It wasn't what he expected. So off he drives again. So that's the first, didn't work out for you, did it? He then drives to a nearby lake, parks the car, and carries or drags her body for 140 metres down to the water's edge. But he doesn't place her body in the water. It's on the waterbed. I'm not sure the purpose of the whole water thing. Hear me out. He is an inspector. He knows that when they do her autopsy, that she will have, she's been strangled. So he knows that they're going to find that out. He knows that they'll discover that there's no water in her lungs, so she didn't drown. So why he had to place her body, I'm not sure what the reasoning behind the whole water thing was, because if he wasn't going to submerge her body and make it look like a drowning, for example, why has it got to be anywhere? Why has water got to be involved at all? And why, if he was just going to leave her body? Sorry, these are just questions I have, but maybe you might have some answers or some insight. I like that. But why, if he was going to just place her body on the water's edge, why couldn't he leave her in the first location? Why did it matter that there wasn't deep water if he wasn't going to submerge her body? I don't get that. Or did he think that that's what he was going to do, but then realised, oh no, I'm not sure. But I find that a bit why does the water matter? Why not take her to a secluded, I don't know, woodland? Why has it got to be near a lake or a pond? I do know that where he did leave her body was a secluded place, and it would very likely be that she wouldn't be discovered for days to weeks where he had chosen to leave her body. So he knows the area and he's an inspector. So he chose that place for that reason. So she would likely go unfound for a while, and that would be on his side, because if a body is not found, all of the forensic evidence, she'd be out in the elements, and so it would be harder for them to have any sort of physical forensic evidence from her body if she'd been outside for a week. He left her car and then he walked home. At 1:30 in the morning, 2 police officers happen to witness him having a stroll. And at 1:30 in the morning, it's a bit unusual to see somebody out and about in that area. So they approach him. And he doesn't give his name. He doesn't give his surname. He's like, I've done nothing wrong. I'm not giving you any information. I'm just walking home. I've had a little bit to drink. I'm just going home. And there's nothing they can do about that. Fair enough. If you've had a couple of drinks and you're walking home, fair dues. So they let him go and off he goes. Can you imagine? He must really, the chances... This will all come back to bite him in the ears, because about half an hour later, the same 2 police officers, they're just patrolling, They come across him again, but this time he's got no shoes on. Ooh, odd. Right, so now it's just too bizarre for them to like he says he's walking home. This is half an hour later. We're like, what's going on, mate? And he's now got no shoes on. And also they have a duty of care to look after people. Maybe he's like not all there and they need to take him home. So they stop him again. Oh, can you imagine? Karma. This time, where are your shoes? And he says, well, they were hurting my feet. So you binned them? Really? Not just take them off and carry them? You put them in a bin? That's weird. That's weird. And again, they're like, where do you live? Can we help you? What's going on? And then one of the officers notices that Darren is wearing police issue trousers. And they notice it and they're like, mate, what's going on? You're a police officer. And he gets made, basically. So then he has to think on his feet. And then he tells them the truth, which is that he is out and about, wandering around, trying to find his wife. Now, the reason that his first meeting with the police is going to bite him in the arse is, why on earth, if your wife is missing, and you then come across two police officers, why would you be shady and be like, oh, I don't know. I don't know what my name is. I'm not going to tell you. I just want to go home. I've been drinking. Why would you lie? Why would you not be like, oh, great. Here's two police officers. Here's some fellow, like some colleagues of mine to help me find my missing wife. You would not. What? So the fact that he's like, and now he's got to come clean. So he says, I'm looking for my wife. She's gone missing. I've drunk half a bottle of red wine, so I'm not driving. But I can't find her, so now I'm going to go home and see if she's gone home. So they go, okay, right, hop in, we'll take you home. So they drive him home, and when they get home, they have to, and this must have just been killing him inside, because the whole plan was that he could go home, go to bed, probably sleep, because people like that can. Go home, chill, and then maybe even not the next day, but maybe a bit later, like give it some time, then report her missing. Because then there's, the longer time between him reporting her missing and when she actually, he's actually killed her is good for him. Not like immediately afterwards. So he's probably like, frick. So they drive him home. And then they start investigating Leanne's disappearance. So they ask him to go and look for Leanne's phone, which he does. And then they say, oh, can you find it? I think he must have had Find My Phone. So, because they found the location of her phone. And he had left her phone at the original place that he'd driven to, Paddock Hill Farm, probably to throw officers off of the scent so that they wouldn't find her immediately. So these two police officers, they go to Paddock Hill Farm. They were already suspicious because this whole thing is very odd. When they drove Darren home and he walked into his property, one of his small children, it breaks my heart when things like this happen, I hate it, but one of his children was awake and crying at the front door. And the officers noted how unemotional and cold Darren was at that situation. This is where it gets spicy, because this is where you think about karma and the universe like working for you. Because the police officers at Paddock Hill Farm, obviously they have no luck in finding Leanne because she's not there. Her phone is, but she's not. It's the middle of the night, so they're not going to start a big search for her at that point. And even so, the place where she really was quite secluded and off the beaten path, and so it would have still probably been days until they did find her body. However, at 3:45 a.m, a really unsuspecting, and I'm very sad for them, member of the public, been out drinking, gets off the bus and gets themselves lost, very lost, and they happen to stumble across Leanne's body. So, what? That's absolute. Can you believe it? So this poor person, really distressed, ends up telling the police, found a body, and it is then quickly identified as Leanne's body. And the officers go back to Darren's house. When they get back to Darren's house, well, he's gone to bed. He's asleep, yeah, really worried about his missing wife. Very sad. No, getting some rest. And when the officers walk into his house, they notice that the washing machine is on. Like, who puts the washing machine on in the middle of the night? So they quickly stop the cycle and they arrest Darren. In his interview, he does a little, switcheroo situation. At first, he's like, I don't know. I just know that she was missing. I had to get the kids from school. She wasn't there. I don't know where she is. I couldn't find her. So, and then I went out looking for her. By the way, another thing I've just thought, if your wife is missing, you've got the kids from school, she's still not come home, ring the police. Would you not, Mr. Police Inspector? No. Or at least get somebody to come to your house and sit with your children while you go out looking for her. Like, for somebody that, yeah, bit dim. And then they start sort of saying about evidence, that they've got evidence against him, and he then changes his story. So, immediately suspicious. How can two things be true at the same time? How can you be texting your wife at 2:40 in the afternoon and you don't know where she is and she's not at home and you can't find her? But at the same time, oh no, I did know where she was. Why did you text her then? And we actually went out for a drive. Again, two parents decide willingly to leave your 3 children at home unattended, having a laugh? Sorry, the vein. So, yeah. So that's what he says. Oh no, she was a bit cross about the financial situation. So we went out for a drive, left the kids at home, went out for a drive, and then it got a bit heated. So I left and I walked home. Right? That was his story. Why then, sir, when the police stopped you, did you say, oh, my wife's missing? She wasn't missing then, was she? If you knew, oh, I left her at, oh, we've had a row, so I'm walking home. Why, I know this is terrible to say, but I expect better from a police inspector. Really? This is what you came up with? He said that when he left her, she was alive and that somebody, some stranger, must have killed her. There was mounting evidence against Darren. There was CCTV showing him in the Mini by himself, driving it around. Also, when he was texting her, like, where are you? I'm really worried about you. What's going on? Their phones were together. They get the information and they ping from cells and stuff. Well, they found that their phones were together. So, good one. They found his trainers sort of hours, just like very soon to when all the bins would be collected. They found his trainers in a wheelie bin, waiting, at the side of the road. Oh, again, that's just so lucky, isn't it? Because not long after that, the bin men would have come and game over. They found his trainers and lo and behold, they had Leanne's blood on them. And also when they did the analysis, of like the soil and all the stuff in the bottom of the shoe, it was a match to near the lake. So he'd been right down to the water's edge where Leanne's body was. On the 5th of March in 2018, Darren would go to trial and he pleaded not guilty. He maintained that a stranger had killed Leanne by the lake when he had left her after their row. However, there was just mounting evidence. As the trial went on, I think he realised that, whoa, they've got me. So on the sort of final evening of the trial, I believe, he changed his plea. He wanted to change it to manslaughter, but the judge said no, so he then pleaded guilty to Leanne's death, to her murder. He was given a minimum of 19 years. Didn't work out for him that evening, did it? Not at all. He put her body somewhere that it shouldn't have technically been found for days, weeks, but it was found immediately. He dumped his trainers, assuming that they would be taken by the bin men. They were found within hours. He washed his clothes in the washing machine and the cycle got stopped. And on his walk home, after dumping the body, he was stopped by police officers twice. Did not go his way. Almost unbelievable. And that is all I have for you on today's case. How are we all this fine Friday evening? Can't believe the weather, man. Drench. I can hear it. Like wind. Oh, I think there's meant to be a thunderstorm. I don't mind a thunderstorm if I'm at home. I'm just going to have a homey day today with the guys, with the kiddos. Maybe some films. popcorn. Do you remember that popcorn that I ate? Oh, I think it was in a Patreon video. My apologies. Oh yeah, check out the Patreon if you fancy. I'm going to put the link, it's always in my description box, but I think I might do a pinned comment on each one because it's easier to, you'll just see it then. Yeah, but if ever you fancy, it's like the price of coffee or less. I think it's a bit less actually, but yeah, I must do some more content for my Patreon. So I do like little extra videos on there, but I did one where I filmed me opening one of my gin boxes and I ate the snacks. But I think I even ate the snacks in a Sin and Tonic video. I think I had the popcorn still here, so I was like, yeah, if my memory serves me correctly. I don't think I've got anything exciting going on. Not really. I'm going to love you and leave you. Thank you for joining me for another episode of Sin and Tonic. Hope you can join me next week for another true crime story and a mug of gin. Do you like this mug? It's the periodic table. Cool, I just thought it was really cool. Have a good one, and I'll see you on the other side. Bye!